Hello, and welcome back to PTE Tutorials presentation videos. Today we'll be going over an introduction to reading. The contents of this video will be that we'll be going over the test pattern, we'll be going over our question types, we'll be going over general reading skills that you should have in order to be successful, as well as some sample questions for you to look over and get familiar with. So first, the exact pattern of this exam. So first, we'll go over the specific pattern for this part of the exam. You will have anywhere from 32 to 41 minutes. It varies because of the randomization of our exams. You'll be confronted with different kinds of questions. You'll be confronted by multiple choice questions, both single and multiple answer options. You'll be expected to be able to reorder paragraphs. You'll also be expected to fill in the blanks, as well as reading and writing. A bit more on this. For multiple choice questions for the single option, you'll read a text, and then you'll answer a multiple choice question based on the context or tone, and you will only be able to select one option out of a list of different options. This contrasts with the multiple choice multiple answers, and that you will have multiple answers that are correct that you have to select from a list of different options. For reordering paragraphs, what will happen is there will be several text boxes appearing on the screen in a random order. You'll need to put these text boxes in the correct order. For fill in the blanks, what you will have is a text appearing on screen with several blanks. You will be given various options to put in those blanks. You will have to drag those words or phrases from the box to put into the blanks. Now, all of these options of questions that we've gone over so far will assess your reading abilities. Now, for the reading and writing section, which will go over your reading and writing abilities, you'll have to fill in the blanks. And as it says here, a text will appear on screen with several blanks. Drag the words or phrases from several drop-down lists with a series of response options. Very soon we'll get to see some real-world applications of these from our exams. Now, there are some general reading skills you'll need to be familiar with. One of them is skimming. And the idea of skimming is being able to quickly glance at a text, looking for key words, phrases, or ideas. Generally, those will tend to be words or phrases that are similar to each other that are repeated several times throughout a text. This is related to scanning, which is where you're looking for specifically just one or two words. Now, you will also need to identify the main idea, supporting ideas, and phrases appropriate to the context. You will also have to be able to take concrete or tangible information, things that occur in the physical world, as well as abstract information, such as thoughts, opinions, ideas, and be able to understand what's going on. You'll also have to evaluate the quality and usefulness of the text, as to whether or not this particular paragraph is necessary in order to answer your question. You will also need to be able to identify what structure and organization is around the different pieces of information within your text. This will give you a clue as to the intent as well as tone and attitude of the author. Last, you will be able to read the text, keeping in mind you're looking for specific details, facts, opinions, events, definitions, etc. that you're looking for. Now, going over specific questions and examples. Now, these examples are straight from our exams. Now, to go over specific examples from our own exam. This is the format, and this is what you will actually see. What we have here is a multiple choice, choose single answer, and you can see that clearly at the top of the screen. Now, what you will have to do is you will have to take what is in the paragraph and then be able to pick a single answer. A little tip that I have is that you should read the question and then read the text, looking for the information that is in the question. Obviously, you can only do this when the question is presented to you first or along with the text. If you only have the text, then you will need to make sure that you can go through it and understand it entirely. So let us examine this very quickly to ensure that you have all the information. So read the text and answer the multiple choice question by selecting the correct response. There is only one response that is correct. That's consistent with choosing a single answer. The major divisions of the Sioux people of North America are the Wahapekutui, the Midequan Cantonwan, the Wapentanwan, and the Sistanwan, the Sanity, the Nakota, and the Lakota, the Hunkpapa, the Sahasapa, or Blackfoot, and the Oglala, the Santee, the Eastern Division, and the Dakota. Now we have an idea of what we're looking for in the text. We are looking for the major divisions of the Sioux people. Now going to our text, the Sioux or Dakota, this is a key word because it's similar here, however we have no information as whether or not they are a major division yet. This is a confederation of native North American tribes, dominant group of the Hokan-Siouan linguistic stock, which is divided into several separate branches. The Sioux, or the Dakota, consisted of 7 tribes and 3 major divisions. Here is our major key phrase that we were looking for. Major divisions. And we can see here what they are. Wapekute, Medewakantonwan, Wahapetonan, and Sisitonwan, who together form the Santee or Eastern Division, sometimes referred to as the Dakota. The Ihanktonwan and the Yankton, and the Ihanktonwana or Yanktonai, who together form the Middle Division, sometimes as the Nakota, and the Tetonwan or Teton, who together form the Western Division, sometimes referred to as the Lakota. The Tetons, originally a single band, divided into sub-bands after the move to the plains. These 7 sub-bands include the Hunkpapa, the Sisapa, or the Blackfoot, and Oglala. Now going back to the major divisions of the Sioux people, what we have are the Wapekute, the Ndokantonwan, the Wapatonwan, and the Sistantonwan. Now, what we have here is the Eastern Division, who form the Santee, sometimes referred to as the Dakota. Now, this answer is false because this only refers to the Eastern Division, the Santee, the Eastern Division, and the Dakota. So that is not our answer, because that is here. The Hunkpapa, the Sisapa, or Blackfoot, and Oglala, these are sub-bands that move to the plains, so that is not our answer. What we have are the Santee, the Nakota, and the Lakota. So the Lakota refers to the Western Division, so that checks out. We have the Nakota, which is the Middle Division, which checks out, and the Santee, which checks out for the Eastern Division. So this is our answer here. These also this is incorrect because this only refers to the Eastern Division as well. So that's not it. And that's how you do it. You read the question first, you go through, look at the information, try to decipher what exactly is in the information, and don't let yourself become too quickly judged on what it should be. Now we have multiple choice, multiple answers. The only difference between single choice is that there are multiple answers that are correct. So let's read the text and answer the question by selecting the correct responses. More than one response is correct. Which of the following statements is correct? We have green symbolizes many issues, but most importantly, it represents the verdant landscape. White represents the hope for equality between religious groups. The symbolism of the colors is as meaningful today as at the time when it was designed. Prior to 1848, all three colors had little symbolic significance. Orange is associated with the Irish Protestants because of the victory of William III. And when viewed from left to right, the colors of the flag are orange, white, and green. Now that we know what we're looking for, we can evaluate all of these. So skimming, we see we have a picture of the flag. When viewed from left to right, it's orange, white, and green. It's green, white, and orange. That's false. So that is not correct. So beginning, we have rarely has a flag possessed such lasting relevance as the tricolor. 3 equal stripes that illustrate the political points. Heroes unfurled. Orange for Protestants, so that relates back to here. Green for Irish Catholics and the Republican cause. If we recall properly, that does not agree with this statement here, so this is also false. And we have white representing the hope for peace between the Catholics and the Irish Protestants. That is not the same as equality, so this is wrong. So far within the first paragraph, we've eliminated 3 out of the 6 options. Now it goes over why orange. The orange is associated with Northern Irish Protestants because William of Orange, William III, which checks out here, and the King of England, Scotland, deposed Roman Catholic in the fateful battle. William III's victory. It's over. This one's correct. Orange is associated with Irish Protestants because of the victory of William III. Prior to 1848, and the symbolism of the colors, these are still up to us. Now, continuing on, we see green for the Emerald Isle. Green is a color standing and may have something to do with shamrocks and verdant landscapes, but more importantly, green symbolizes revolution. This confirms our earlier statement, both up here. But here's the kicker. An earlier unofficial Irish flag, the gold harp on a green background, served from 1798 until the 20th century as a symbol of nationalism. Now looking at our questions, it says prior to 1848, all 3 colors have little symbolic significance. Well, since one of the colors is green, and it says here that in 1798 that it was important, this is wrong, which leaves the symbolism of the colors is as meaningful today as the time when the flag was designed. If we recall properly, it said that here that it's as relevant as it was before, such lasting relevance. So this one also checks out. Now for reordering the paragraphs. We have text boxes on the left panel that are in a random order. We must now restore the original order by dragging the text boxes into an order that we believe makes sense. Obviously, since this is a PowerPoint, I cannot drag, but I will just number them as 1 or 2. So, Daud subsequently deposed the king and proclaimed a republic in 1973. What this implies is that there was a king before 1973 and a republic after 1973. So we'll use this as our baseline for everything else. As a result of the souring Pakistani-Afghan relations, Daud's cousin, King Muhammad Zafar Shah, removed him from office. Well, there's king in here. That probably occurred before 1973, because how is a king going to be disposed and then remove somebody from office? So logically, this comes before this. The third one, an ethnic Pashtun of noble birth, Daud held a series of military and government posts before becoming Minister of Defense in 1946 and Minister of Interior from 1949 to 1950. Since this describes the different government posts, we can assume that he has not been deposed or removed from office by any king, so we can assume that this comes before being removed from office. Daud was overthrown and assassinated during the Saur Revolt, which brought a communist government to power. Well, Daud cannot be overthrown and assassinated before he disposes of a king, because dead people really can't do much. So necessarily, this comes after this. As Prime Minister from 1953 to 1963, Daud sought to modernize the country, supporting the rules and permitting women to remove the veil in 1959. Now, you cannot be Prime Minister when there is a king. So, this obviously occurs now. As Prime Minister from 1953 to 1963, this logically occurs before 1973. So this comes before this. So what we can say is that if we are making this 0, this occurs before this, so we can make this, so if this is 0, this is -1. This is probably going to be 1, because it occurs after 0. An ethnic Pashtun, since it describes 1946, 1949 to 1950, this probably occurs before 1953, so this will be -2. And this probably occurs before being deposed by a king. So, this one is the tricky one. And where do you place this? I would probably place this between -1 and 0. So necessarily in your notes you would have to redo everything. So this is -1. This becomes 0. This becomes 1. And this becomes 2. The next one is fill in the blanks. Here we will be dragging the words to the different places. However, since I can't drag, I will just be numbering which ones. So, although Botswana is rich in diamonds, it has high unemployment and stratified socioeconomic classes. In 1999, the nation, blank, its first budget deficit in 16 years, blank, of a slump in the international diamond market. Logically speaking, if there's a slump in the international diamond market, that would mean that there's less money. So, if you have a budget deficit, what about endures? While endures is a potential thought that could go here in the first blank, it's not necessarily the proper one because the tense does not match the idea that this is occurring in the past. Because is a conjunction, so that doesn't work. Enjoyed, nobody enjoys a budget deficit. Continent is a noun. Remains, also again the wrong tense. While, conjunction. Suffered. Suffered is the right word because it is the proper tense and it matches the tone of the rest of it. So this will be the first one. The second one, its first budget deficit in 16 years, because would explain why it's having it, of a slump. So this will be number 2. Yet Botswana, blank, one of the wealthiest and most stable countries on the African blank. Now here, yet Botswana, you do not endure being the wealthiest country. You've already used because. Enjoyed, Botswana cannot enjoy one of the most stable countries. It doesn't make sense. Continent is a noun. Remains, yet Botswana remains one of the. So that corresponds to this because you have yet, which implies that it's in rather of. So this will be number 3. And then the last part, one of the wealthiest and most stable countries on the African endures. No. Enjoyed. No. Continent. Yes. Because it is a noun. The final example is the reading and writing, filling in the blanks. Now obviously I do not necessarily have all of the options, so we'll only be going over the first one. So what you will do is you will read and then you will just click on the button and it will pull down a list of options. And then you select. So to go over the first one, we have called Chomolungma, goddess mother of the world. In Tibet and Sagamarta, goddess of the sky. In Nepal, Mount Everest once went by the pedestrian name of Peak 15 among Westerners. This was before purveyors, surveyors, surveillance, persuasion. Well, persuasion established that it was the highest mountain on earth. Persuasion doesn't make much sense because that's a technique of speaking. Surveillance doesn't make much sense either because how are you surveilling anything? Surveyors, now that's an interesting one. This implies somebody is doing something, in particular surveying or measuring the land. So this would probably be a good bet. Purveyors are people who sell things. That's probably not it. Because why would a purveyor establish something as tall? So the obvious answer here is going to be surveyors. Now they try to trick you by making similar words. However, there are different techniques to get away from this. First off, if you know what surveillance means, you can eliminate that. If you know what persuasion means, you can eliminate that. If you don't know what surveyors means, but you know what purveyors means, you've ruled out all the other options and you're left with just this. And with that, that concludes the introduction to the reading section. Thank you again for choosing PTE Tutorials. We hope to see you again.